Jacob Miller, born in 1829, lived until 1917. He was shot in the head during the Battle of Chickamauga in 1863, and incredibly, he just walked it off. Mirandajo was quite a character, an absolutely invulnerable man. This Dutch fellow would let people pierce him, right there in front of them. He'd swallow splinters and blades, things that would hurt anyone else. And get this, he even shot himself in the head twice with everyone watching. And he was totally unharmed. Here's a scene from the past. A woman is testing out a rather unusual piece of lingerie, a spiral electric bra. This was all happening at the 20th International Show of Inventions, which was held in Brussels back on March 13, 1971. The year was 1970, and somewhere in Wallsend, England, a massive project was underway. A giant tanker, the SO Hibernia, was slowly taking shape. You could feel the scale of it, a real behemoth being built on the docks. This was taken in New York back in 1916. You get the sense of a blind woman just going about her day. Stranded between Dallas and Austin, a family's got their sights set on the Arkansas Delta. They're hoping to find work there, but times are tough. They don't have any money, and food is scarce. The father, meanwhile, is trying to fix a tire. It's 1936, and this is just the beginning of their long journey. Back in 1933, out in the Golden West, you'd find two of Hollywood's brightest young stars. Shirley Temple and Baby Leroy, all smiles, were buying tickets for a movie. They were off to see It Ain't No Sin, starring the one and only Mae West. It's 1915, and there's this woman, Dorothy Lawrence, who decided she was going to get a first-hand look at World War I. She did something incredibly daring. She dressed as a male soldier, trying to experience life on the front lines. Eventually, though, the authorities caught up with her, and the inevitable happened. She was arrested. Planes are soaring between the towers, and down below people are crossing the street. It looks like they're celebrating something. This must be the opening of the Golden Gate Bridge back in May of 1937. Imagine a character from the late 1800s. It's the original Michelin Man, created way back in 1898. Willow Run really made its mark during the war. They were cranking out a new B-24 bomber every single hour by late 1943. Can you imagine the scale of that operation? They ended up contributing 70% of all the B-24s built. It was, in fact, the most produced heavy bomber in the history of aviation. It all took place in Michigan back in the 1940s. There's Charlie Chaplin, instantly recognizable in his bowler hat and suit. He's deep in conversation with Stan Laurel. And right beside them is Roland Tothero, all three of them animated and talking. It looks like they're on a movie set, surrounded by filming equipment. You can almost feel the buzz and excitement of a film being made. A Native American woman is at work operating a telephone switchboard. She's at the Many Glacier Hotel in Montana. This was back on June 26, 1925. Imagine a grand lady standing tall against the sky, a beacon of hope. It's 1900 and she's reaching out, welcoming newcomers to a new world. What a sight. Walt Disney, deep in conversation. And who's he talking to? The cat. It seems he's explaining the ins and outs of Mickey Mouse. What a scene that must have been. Back in 1965, a remarkable woman achieved a significant milestone. She became the first woman in the United States to earn a doctorate in computer science. It says his opponent, Thomas Dewey, is the winner of the 1948 United States presidential election. Talk about a premature announcement. It was the summer of 1968, and Coney Island was in a bit of a bind. Seems the lifeguards were on strike. There's this woman you see in a bikini, and she's jumping up onto the lifeguard stand, probably to get a better view. Or maybe just to make a point. It was quite a scene, I'd imagine. It was a special day. A Victory Day parade on Fifth Avenue. It was June 12, 1946. Soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Brigade were marching, celebrating their triumph. It was back in 1983, and Arnie was out there, lending a hand. He was supporting athletes with disabilities, showing everyone what real strength and determination looks like. Around 1890, a photograph captures a moment in time. We're looking at Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. This is a really sweet scene. It's of Elvis and his mother Gladys. This is a picture of J.R.R. Tolkien. Two bewildered old ladies stand amongst the rubble. Their home, the almshouse, used to be right here. Now it's just leveled ruins. The devastation of total war, it knows no limits. The almshouse was bombed on February 10, 1943, in Newbury, Berkshire, England. Cruising through Nebraska back in 1945, you could see a scooter rider enjoying the open road. The year was 1936. A sea of arms shot up in a rigid salute, the gesture echoing across the crowd. But one man stood apart. He was alone, arms folded across his chest, a silent act of defiance amidst the conformity. He didn't flinch, didn't waver. There was a mill, and some of the kids were tiny. They were so small that they had to actually climb up onto the spinning frame itself. Their job was to mend any broken threads and replace the empty bobbins. This was at Bib Mill No. 1 in Macon, Georgia, the entrance to Frank Sinatra's home on Beaumont Drive. It must have been the 1960s. It was 1917, and the Americans were just getting into the tank game. They built the Holt gas-electric tank, which was the very first one they made. Well, that's an interesting pose. It's definitely not something you see every day. Seems like an odd choice for a picture, Back in 1934, an engineer named Alexei Osipovich built just one of these amazing vehicles. He called it the Gaz Aero. It was based on the Gaz A model. The body of the car was made of wood, but it was covered in metal plates. The landscape is filled with a forest of oil derricks. It looks like it's in the Signal Hill oil field, down in Long Beach, California. This was all happening back in 1937. This is one of the very first photos of Queen Elizabeth. It was taken just a month after she was born, during her christening in May of 1926. Say that again, and I'll dip you in, 1897. Here's a photo of a happy clown. It looks like it's from the early 1900s. Back in 1840, someone snapped the very first picture of the moon. It was 1942, and you could feel the tension hanging thick in the air. Inside the submarine's control room, a single officer stood at the periscope, eyes glued to the view. He was completely focused, the weight of his duty evident in his posture. The whole operation, everything, rested on his vigilance. A vintage Halloween costume. Imagine a little kid, maybe back in the 1950s or so. They're dressed up, probably ready to go trick-or-treating. You just know they're excited for the candy and the spooky fun. Classic stuff. A young coal miner in West Virginia. It's 1908, and he's working at the Turkey Knob mine. It was 1924, and they were doing a demonstration of Buick's new standardization efforts in Washington. It must have been quite a sight. A woman is strolling along Bayswater Road in London. She's got two Great Danes with her, these massive dogs. It looks like she's walking them through a dog cemetery, which is a bit unusual. The whole scene has a certain historical feel to it. The year would have been 1927. Back in 1966, on March 9th, a group calling themselves the Procrastinators Club of America were out protesting. Seems they were taking issue with the War of 1812, and they were doing it right there in Philadelphia. Imagine a parking lot in New York City back around 1920. It's an elevator parking lot, which is a pretty unique idea, right? It looks like the kind of place you'd pop into for a quick bite. Imagine a classic lunch counter, probably in the 1940s. You can almost smell the sizzling food. You've got workers behind the counter, ready to serve up whatever you're in the mood for. Probably some delicious diner staples. The English Channel. These American soldiers were photographed aboard a Navy LCI, that's landing craft, infantry, on their way to the invasion coast of France. This was in 1944. This fascinating piece is an ancient Maya zoomorphic stone. It was created sometime in the late 1800s. It's only natural that Tom Hanks would become the king of romantic comedies. After all, he graduated from Skyline High School in Oakland, California in 1974. Just look how suave he was in his senior photo. It looks like the setting is Nassau Point, Long Island in New York. It must have been a summer scene from 1939. It looks like a really interesting scene. It seems to be a group of Soviet peasants and they're listening to the radio. The year would have been 1928. It must have been quite something to experience that for the first time. A gentleman named Edwin Davy perched atop a penny-farthing bicycle, making his way across Lambeth Bridge in London. And to make sure everyone knew he was coming, he was blowing a bugle. Well, here we have some odd-looking German soldiers from World War II. They look a bit strange, don't they? I wonder what they're up to. It's a heartbreaking scene. A mother and father, clearly in deep grief, are posed with their deceased daughter. It appears to be a post-mortem photograph, taken sometime after her passing. You can feel the sorrow and the love, captured for all time. A group of British children are huddled together, completely absorbed in the news. They're likely reading about the Second World War back in their homeland. The year was 1943. After the disastrous Battle of Kursk, there was a soldier, a German one, caught in a moment of utter despair. It looks like a tough time for actors. The Marx Brothers, back in 1934, are sitting with their luggage. They're just outside the gates of the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer studios. He looks like he's seen things. A creepy man, probably in his late 30s or early 40s, with dark circles under his eyes. You know the kind. The kind you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley at 2 in the morning. He's got that unsettling stare, and his expression just off. Gives you the shivers. Gives you back in Benton County, Tennessee during the 1930s. It was a story they'd tell for years. Back in the spring of 1908, 3 women strolled onto the Longchamp racecourse in Paris. And let me tell you, the reaction was something else. Oh my goodness, check this out. Back in the 1930s, mothers had a real concern about the flu. This particular mom, she was pleading with her baby, telling them, "Please don't kiss me." Can you imagine? She was trying to protect her little one, worried about catching the flu and getting sick. It's a funny glimpse into how things were back then, with everyone taking precautions, even when it came to a simple kiss. The year was 1942. A British officer and his crew were gathered on the deck of their motor launch. They had their dog mascot with them, looking ready for anything. There's this little girl, Chrissy Cheney, maybe 3 years old, sitting with her cat and some knitting. It looks like she's in a room, maybe in a place called Shetland. This would have been around 1943. It was back in 1922 when they made this incredible find. They discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun. Back in 1894, a group of archaeologists and their workers were standing in front of something truly remarkable. It was a statue of Antinous, nearly perfectly preserved and still standing tall. They had just unearthed it near the Temple of Apollo, within the sanctuary at Delphi, Greece. It looks like a Halloween celebration back in 1886. There's a man dressed up as the billiards king, and it seems he's got his 2 sons with him. They're decked out too. One is the 8-ball and the other is the cue ball. That's a pretty creative family costume. It was 1964 and the air was thick with anticipation. Someone was in Pyongyang. It was the opening day of the Empire State Building, way back in 1931. New York City was buzzing with excitement. It was 1939, and the buzz around Hollywood was all about the young marrieds. You had Louis Hayward and Ida Lupino, a couple who were definitely turning heads. Their names were on everyone's lips. It looks like there's a group of Kwakiutl people setting out in canoes. They're headed somewhere special, perhaps a wedding in British Columbia. This was all the way back in 1914. It was June 17, 1922, in Washington, D.C. 2 women, Iola Swinnerton and Anna Niebel, had just been declared the winners of the bathing costume contest down at the tidal basin. Miss Swinnerton, the runner-up, lived at 3125 Mount Pleasant Street, Northwest. Way back in the 1970s, Google was just a twinkle in someone's eye, I bet. Ludgate Hill is just buzzing with activity. Shops and cafes line the street, and you've got all sorts of vehicles. Motor cars mixed right in with horse-drawn carriages. It's quite a sight. And towering above it all, you can see St. Paul's Cathedral. This was London, around 1920. This was taken on a Japanese carrier ship, before the attack on Pearl Harbor. The date was December the 7th, 1941. Here's a look at a lawnmower called the Power Mower of the Future. It was put on display way back on October 14, 1957. The White House kitchen, circa 1909.